Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through CHOW and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Good morning and welcome to Encounter. I'm your host today, Joe Sellepack. I'm the Executive Director at the Broome County Council of Churches. CHOW, it's one of our calling cards. It's actually one of the programs that's probably better known to the community than even the Council of Churches is. It has buckets in every Weiss store. I was at M&T Bank and I saw a CHOW barrel there. We have a lot of visibility through the CHOW program, but one of the things that is incredibly important about CHOW is the community support that it receives and the community partnerships that it has. Without those community partnerships, we would not be able to do the work of CHOW at all. So to help me talk this through with is Les Aylesworth, who of course is our CHOW director, and then Matt Sheehan, who is a principal at BOCES of all places. And thank you for being on Encounter today, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on Encounter, Les.
Glad to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about, start off with that question. How important are the community partnerships for CHOW in order to do the work that you do? Right now, I know we have a group of New Visions students that are
there today.
Yep.
It's critical. I mean, it's cliche to say we couldn't do it without you, the community, but it's the truth. We do a big work with few hands as a staff, and so it requires not just work in the warehouse to do what we do, but total community support to continue to help our neighbors. Whether it's through food donations, volunteering in the warehouse, working out in pantries and meal sites, it really takes the entire community to help the community.
And CHOW is an acronym, right?
It is.
What does it
mean? It stands for the Community Hunger Outreach Warehouse. So that community part is the first one. It's so central to what we do.
Yeah, there was once one of the executive directors who had preceded me at the council, so this goes back a long way. He wrote an article in which he said, we're not just the Christian Outreach Warehouse, we are the Community Hunger Outreach Warehouse. He says one is called CHOW and the other one is called COW, and we don't want to have a cow. We want to about the whole community. And one of our partners that have kind of emerged is BOCES. We do a lot. We've been doing a lot of work with BOCES here recently. How have the students been finding interaction with CHOW?
So I think it's rewarding for them in a lot of different ways, and I think it's eye-opening. I mean, I think about myself. I grew up in this community, and learning what CHOW does and how much help and how much, I mean, every time Les comes to a meeting and he talks about the hunger and the need out there, it really just blows your mind, right? And then you go, is there that many families in Broome County? And you start to work back through it. But I think about like the range in which, so you said today, there's New Visions kids there probably doing a day of caring and learning about it and working. But I mean, every day we have our students from our alternatively assessed programs who work there in the morning and the afternoon. And one of our students was fortunate enough to get forklift trained. Yeah. It's like, this is impact of impact. That student is going to be able to work, and he might not be working in a full-time capacity somewhere, but he can be a value add in a lot of places. And I think that's the impact for our students and what it can do for them. And that's just talking about our students, right? And then if we get bigger and think about other ones, which I think we'll talk about a little later, some of the programs we've created over the years to impact the community but also impact our students. It's just immense. They have this ability to see what's going on in their world and have an actual impact on it.
Yeah, the one who you were talking about, the student who had forklift training, I run into him every now and then in the hallway or in the bathroom or whatever, and I always ask him, so how are things going? He says, I like this job. And it's like he goes, I want to do this forever. And it's like, you can see it. It's really something important to him, and he finds a lot of meaning in it. It's one of those deals that you can really see a direct impact on a student, and he comes from that, and he's alive. It's like creates that kind of meaning for him. I think that's a pretty cool thing. So Les, how have these students, how have we utilized them in the warehouse?
Yeah, so backing up, we started this jobs training program a couple of years ago with some students from BOCES, and it evolved over time. And what we saw was they really did contribute to what we're doing out there. And we're trying to have a culture at the Council of Churches that empowers people, whether it's through food or whether it's through independent living, whatever. We want to not give handouts, we want to give hand-ups. And this was another opportunity to do that. And so as we saw this thing kind of growing and evolving, we got working a little bit more with BOCES to put some more structure to it. And as an aside, there's actually a BOCES staff person on our site that works with the students, which is pretty awesome. Excuse me. But the work they do it really is invaluable. And so it's a symbiotic, mutually beneficial relationship.
Mm. Have you gotten any feedback from the staff person as to like how they've experienced that?
I don't want to offend their previous spot, but they said it's the best job they've ever had at BOCES. They really enjoy it. They said they can see the impact in where it's changing kids' lives. Like that moment is there because this is an opportunity for those students to really, like you said, hand up. Like they're going to be able to apply for jobs and say, I worked in a warehouse. Here's what I know how to do. And I know we have dreams of bigger and better movements with that and getting them exposed to some of the, like a scan system so they can see that. Because we have warehouses and logistics. That's something that Broome County has a lot of.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a lot of opportunity for students, and we're trying to figure out how to create and maintain as many as possible. So that part, and our staff person there feels like every time I see her, she has this huge smile on her face. She's excited about the work. She's got ideas to improve it for the students. We've really been able to let her empower herself really to do lots with them. So it's amazing. It's an awesome opportunity to have our students there daily working. You're talking about the guy who really likes the job, and I'm thinking of another one who, when he doesn't know what to do, he has to just start sweeping. Right? And you know what? We got him a job outside with working with Access VR. He's working at the Binghamton Bulldogs doing the same thing.
Really?
So one day I say to the owner of that, and I'm like, hey, you got my guy here. And he goes, might be my best worker. You know what I mean? Like the idea of what you create there, the opportunity in a safe environment for those students to experience, make mistakes, learn from it, improve, is really invaluable. And we can't simulate that anywhere. The only way you can simulate that is in real workspaces.
Yep.
And it's so interesting to me that, when we're asked, we often get asked this question, like, how do you make CHOW work, right? Because it is a big undertaking when you think about it. 3 million plus meals go out through CHOW per year. And this year, the need has really, increased pretty significantly as far as, people not having access to food. The only way that we're able to do these things, really seriously, is with community partnerships.
Exactly.
And the students, even though that we're talking about this as as if the students are getting an awful lot out of it. We get as much out of it as the students do, and I love having the kids there. I mean, to hear them, they're excited, they're empowered. It really makes our work day goes so much better. So anyway, so let's go on and talk a little bit more about. I know that we have established some pantries throughout the school, a lot of the school districts, and I know that one of the partnerships that we've had with students has been at BOCES in that kind of a way too. How important are these pantries that we've been creating inside the school districts?
I'd say they're incredibly critical. Since the pandemic, I think that's really revealed the extent of which people are in need, and certainly students are one of our higher food insecure populations. I just heard recently that with the recent data that's come out, they're saying 44% of Broome County children are food insecure. That's a mind-boggling number. Yeah. And so a lot of those kids find themselves in schools, and they're in families that are struggling. And so these food pantries in schools provide another opportunity to help uplift those families. And so we have one at BOCES, and there was one that was kind of functioning, and we were able to come alongside that and to support them, and from what I'm hearing, it's doing phenomenal things. And you hear the stories from children who I heard this one story of a student who didn't want to go home over the weekend because there wasn't food there. And so it kind of, again, blows your mind to think that, but it's reality. And so by maybe providing the pantry, they can take some food home and go home.
We're helping as many as 40 families with it. I mean,
Wow.
and that's just at our one site. We have 2 more pantries at 2 different sites off-site doing the same thing. We're expanding, and due to CHOW and Les's commitment, we can expand. So we're helping the families we can, but we have more families in need.
Yeah.
So the ability to help them is very important. And then on the other end of that token, we've turned every one of those pantries into work sites. So
Right.
in our schools, we now have a natural work site for kids to dip their toe. So a kid who works in the pantry this year at our site, in 2 years might be at the warehouse.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? So it's that natural pathway of how we
Great
get
pipeline,
there,
yep.
and pipeline them too. A great word, pipeline.
Yeah.
But that idea of how we can make that work, and that's where it starts. It's those opportunities, and taking care of our families. I mean, we had talk of trying to open another pantry in our school because we have such different diverse populations, and we said no, expand this one, make this one more, so that these kids are getting a more robust experience, and we can still take care of the families in need in this building.
Right. It would seem to me too that you're wanting to treat the pantry as an open place for where people, different cultures may interact with each other, and make it be about care and concern and kindness and all the great words that come along with that, right?
I think it's beautiful. The pantry has become a vehicle to not only feed people, but to give people opportunities to bring people together. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a bridge building.
It really is.
Yeah. So, have you seen any evidence that this has helped with school attendance or making so that kids can actually have a good weekend, that kind of thing?
Empirical data, we haven't done that legwork. I mean, we probably
Right.
we probably could and should if we want to start talking about expanding programs, and it would help to look for more. But from an anecdote, yes, 100%. Kids who, I mean, we talk about this when we do state testing. We got to feed kids, because if they're not fed, they can't think. And if they so taking that away and giving them that security that there is food makes a huge difference. I mean, you think your basic needs, you're providing one of their basic needs, and they need that. And if they're worried about that all day, they're not going to do as well in school. And then if they don't come to school because they're working, right, all those things add up. I mean, you start missing 10 days a month because you had to work somewhere to get some money to get dinners on the table. We all understand that decision, but those 10 days a month add up real fast you're never going to get out of the cycle you're in.
Yeah. My guests today are Matt Sheehan. He is a principal at BOCES, and Les Aylesworth, who is the CHOW director. And we've been talking a lot about the partnership between BOCES and CHOW, and the way that we've been able to interact with each other, and the effects of that partnership, both for the students that we've been working with and for CHOW as an institution and how it moves forward. So let's shift a little bit now to a fun program that I know that I've been involved with over the course of time. I know Matt and Les, you both were Broome Leadership Institute people, and you were all a part of helping make this Kids Can Build, which is the current emanation of Construction, part of their work come about, and then its impact too on students and how they've been able to learn a little bit. So which one you want? Who wants to start? Let's start with
You want to do
Matt.
the story of Kids Can
Yeah,
Build,
yeah,
and
well,
you do
yeah.
the impact?
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
do it. We can
So
do it.
I mean, so the interesting thing about this, and this is where partnerships form, right? So Kids Can Build used to be Construction, as you just said, and it was hosted in the Oakdale Mall, and COVID made it so we couldn't host it one year. Well, the thing is, we still had our 2 sponsors that we worked with at Broome BOCES that were willing to still donate their money and make it happen, so which was Visions and Lockheed Martin. So we built that year, and we just built it in our school. Again, when during COVID, the school was pretty much empty, so we were able to pull that off a little easier. And what we learned from the BLI Alumni Association, who runs this event, we had a massive impact with just 2 in terms of getting the word out, all the knowledge, all these different things, and the return on investment was amazing. So then the discussion was, why don't we do this more often? So we said, why don't we as a committee stop worrying about logistics of the day and start worrying about raising money so schools can work with students to create this opportunity. So you got to realize it's like this combination of like 5 things, I'd say, or 4, I don't know. We'll see if I get it right. But you have the combination of mentors who are industry professionals working side by side with students. You have students learning about what actual CHOW does and the hunger and the outreach. You have the community coming together and donating. I mean, we're over $75,000 over the last 3 years donated to make this competitions happen. And then you have this like true community created of kids who've done this and have worked on it. And you can see them when they come to the awards, they're like, oh, what'd you build this year? Like they know each other at this point. So all of those things came together and it was an amazing opportunity. So we offer that to the schools, open enrollment. So any school that wants to do it, we do 1 school district per like build, but we've been able to manage to raise the money and we were really fortunate this year with some funding at the end. It made it a lot easier, but we're really excited because next year we're going to get to celebrate being over $100,000 at some point.
So the showing on the TV at this moment for all of our radio listeners is are pictures of some of the structures that have gone up, and they're pretty significant. There's the one that's up right now has an octopus and looks like it's a garden under the sea, that kind of thing, which is a play on a Beatles song, right? The octopus. And so some of these structures are pretty elaborate, aren't they?
They are.
Yep.
Yeah. Are any memorable ones?
Well, there's a yellow submarine right there.
Yeah,
You mentioned the Beatles. I think last year there was a working Rubik's Cube.
Oh, wow.
Actually moved. I think this year there was a gumball machine. They had made a giant quarter that if you put the giant quarter in, the can actually rolled out of the structure. And so these students are making some pretty phenomenal things. Being able to put their STEM learning into practice while at the same time addressing food insecurity. It's a pretty awesome combination.
Now, how many community partners are involved in construction? Like how many engineering firms or architectural firms and that were
7.
7?
We'll take 7 firms that provide mentors and or are involved in the judging and leadership of it.
And then we have about how many school districts are working through that?
Well, I think the other part of that, when we say community partners, there's the donation teams too.
Right.
So there's another 30 community agencies that are making donations to make this happen.
Okay.
Not to mention individuals who donated directly to CHOW for the event. And then this past year, we had 9 school districts. The year before, we had 7, and then we had 10 at one point. So, I mean, we've been in our 3rd year. We're getting pretty good at this. We have middle school division and a high school division, so the kids are really involved. I want to step in and say the one I remember most is there was a palm tree last year.
Oh, yeah.
And what they did that was really neat, you can't use 2x4, like you can't use building materials. So they took boxes of pasta and saran wrap, which was 100% of the rules, and made their own 2x4s.
Right.
It was so cool that this, like, that ingenuity to think of that and to realize, like, we really want to show a palm tree. Well, how do you get something that cans build up?
Yep.
Right,
They don't
right.
build out and hang.
Right.
So that to me will always stick in my head.
Yeah, they've done some, like when they were doing them in the mall. Like I remember IBM putting together the tower for with the clock. And
Yeah.
it had a moving clock on it, and there was like the whole external frame of the old IBM building. It was right there. All of this stuff is pretty cool. And speaking of the Rubble Ponies, one that stuck out to me was one where they decided that they were going to do the entire stadium, and they made a model of the stadium, and then they put all of the players and everything on the middle of this model. So it's a pretty cool thing. And then not only did they want to have it there, then we had to reconstruct it after it was at the mall. We had to reconstruct it at the stadium.
Oh, wow.
And that was interesting because the stadium model was much smaller than the one, of course, that we had at the mall too. But all of these stories are great, but they're all, what do we get from that?
So, yeah, I mean, the shift from being from the mall, from the schools, I think every school gets that pride to see their construction, their construction, their structure, whatever, built, and they get to see it, and people can come and look at the school and all that. But from what the impact for the community is that we raised money, and we got over 20,000 pounds of food this year. Not to mention, what is raised above and beyond goes right into CHOW too, to continue helping the community. So it's this benefit on top of benefit on top of benefit. This is really that's why I love this program so much. There's almost no bad to it.
So we were talking that the STEM aspect of it. So you have engineering, and what other types of STEM work goes into that?
Yeah, so I mean, you've got to have, right off the start, they get more points for their simple machines. So you have your science, your engineering, your math. You have to calculate how many cans you actually need. You can't just start building and be like, oh, I'm going to run to the store and buy 4,000 more cans. Like, you have to plan that out from the beginning. And then
so it's like a project management thing.
It's 100% project management. And I would say sometimes we use the word STEAM and throw the arts in. Like, you have to aesthetically make this appealing to people so they understand what they're looking at. And the engineering guy in me says, well, that's part of being an engineer, form and function. But like that concept, all those things interconnect. I think if I was still teaching and doing this, because I actually did construction as a teacher, we were able to intersect all of these things and say, like, anytime the kid's like, well, when are we going to use this? We used it here. Like, remember when you had to figure out how many cans we needed for that one arm of that tree? Yeah. That's the same to like predictive math, right? So all those different things come together because of that. The other impact that I would talk about for this is, in the previous way, you were impacting like people in the community who were coming through the mall, hoping they stopped and saw it, and it was really good. But now you have a school of kids being exposed to what CHOW is and what CHOW does. Mm-hmm. That alone is just that massive impact. So you're talking about some schools have 500, 700 kids in them that are learning about this, because it's not like they just build it in their foyer and they'll be like, oh, just let it be there. They build in the foyer, they talk about it, they tell them what they're doing, what the goal is. Can't be missed. So, I mean, that alone is an amazing impact.
Yeah. And to think that some of those cans might come back to the school, into the pantry, and it's helping families from that school, it's got to be like a full circle moment, right? Where everything just seems to come together.
I feel like we should start putting a sticker on top of a couple, see if we can find out if they actually do. Like, because they have to be. I mean, they're coming back to one of those schools in theory, but there's got to be some from school X that show right back up in school X.
Well, some of the students this morning that are volunteering actually did the can structure, or did the structures.
Yeah.
And so we were joking that maybe you'll see something that you actually handled.
Yeah. So when does construction happen, and how can people see these structures?
All right. Construction traditionally has been all over the place, but we put it in March this past year. One of the things is we did it in May a year ago, and it was the same time as your biggest food drive you have. Yep. So we said, we're not doing that again. So we moved it around, trying to find the challenge is working with a calendar and make it happen. One of the things we probably aren't doing a great job of, and we will commit to today on an encounter, we should probably have a little website that shows all the structures.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because the truth is, these kids do amazing work, and we then can put the winners and the pictures of them doing that at the same time. Because it's not something that we've been marketing really well to community as much as to school communities.
Right. My guests today are Matt Sheehan. We've been talking about BOCES. He is a principal there, as well as Les Aylesworth from CHOW. And we're talking about construction at the moment. So if a person who's watching this or listening to it would like to sponsor to be a sponsor of the event, how would they be able to do that?
They reach out to Les.
Yeah, they talk to me, and if they wanted to make a donation towards it, what I would recommend is they put Kids Can Build 2025, and we generally do it in the springtime. As Matt was saying, we kind of adjust it to the calendar, what works with students and schools and whatnot. But if they wanted to make a donation and sponsor that, they could put Kids Can Build 2025.
If they're a company or a person, they could do the same. If they're more interested in mentoring kids, like, hey, I have this experience. I mean, in this world, I'd love to come in and work with students. They could reach out to me directly, but Les will connect them too. And I'm assuming that his information is a little more readily available for people. But we start planning for this, honestly, next month starts the planning period, and we work for a whole year on it to get it for kids to have this amazing experience.
Well, this is amazing, amazing work. So in our last 3 minutes, as we're wrapping things up, where do you see this? Where do you see this relationship between CHOW and BOCES and the school districts? Where do you see it going?
It's just the beginning. We have the foundation of something that's great in terms of we have these work experiences, we have these pantries, we have this project that impacts greater area and students. But I think there's so much more we can do. One of the problems or challenges in all of these moments is proof of concept. Well, we're at proof of concept at this point. So now we can go out and look for bigger and better maneuvers and look at grants that can maybe make it so that the graduating students move into the workforce and they have the assist that they need at that time to really educate and work their way towards it. I think we're at the point where we have to look at what partners are in the next steps for the students' lives to help support and make that happen for CHOW, but also for those students. And we're really on the cusp of being able to do things like that.
Now, let me ask you a question. So as far as this model is concerned, have you seen this in any other school district or any other place, something similar to this?
So I think the model where you see students working in the pantries in the school districts is very much a common thing. It's work-based learning. It's a great way to get kids who are looking for some work-based learning. It's in small spurts, right? Like you only have 42 minutes. Well, good news. The pantry always needs someone to go through and inventory and move things, right? I think the idea of having students work at the warehouse and being involved more in the actual engine that makes it happen is not that common. So I actually think that once we get the next proof of concept done, we could be sharing this with other organizations and other places and other districts in not just this area, but I mean, we are the Council of Churches for this area. There's got to be CHOWs and similar food pantry systems in other areas of the state that we could share where other BOCES are and say, hey, you have similar populations, similar community members. Let's figure out how to show you what we did.
And CHOW has been an innovative project program ever since pretty much ever since we started it. So it seems that innovation has been a part of CHOW's concept for itself as well, right?
Absolutely, and I think I love what Matt said. This is just the beginning, and we've talked even on this Encounter show, we have plans for a prepared meal program, and we've talked to BOCES about that and see how that would maybe fit together and what other things in the future. It's just exciting to think about how this partnership can continue and grow and blossom and, like you said, even impact other areas.
So I want to thank you both for being on Encounter today. Matt, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a part of this. And Les, thank you for always being accessible to me for Encounter.
A pleasure.
And for all of you today, I hope that you would be good and gentle with each other and have a great Lord's Day.